So now, back to the first thing on the menu, guys. Ugandan football is on the move, literally. Okay, stadiums are rising. We are looking at CHAN happening. Morocco is showing us how it's done. So, are we finally getting serious when it comes to infrastructure, or is it just another, dream in the making?
No, it's serious, pal. We've talked on the last few episodes here about how this year is going to be busy for the Uganda Cranes on the pitch because of the CHAN tournament and the AFCON. Now, those tournaments were supposed to be thrown 10 months apart. Unfortunately now, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, they've been brought closer together because CHAN, which was meant to be this month, was pushed to August, yeah. And then the AFCON is actually in December in Morocco, like we said here before. So they'll just be a couple of months apart. It might mean good things for Ugandan players because most of them will be hitting either in form and be able to keep it, and then they will have picked up experience from CHAN to take into the AFCON, or they will most likely will be fit and ready to go. There are countries, I'm sure, on the continent which will be challenged by having those two tournaments that close to each other at the end of a calendar year, but perhaps not Uganda. We don't have that many players in the big leagues in Europe. We will not be able to struggle. We will not struggle too much under the circumstances. But more importantly, yes, when you talk about the infrastructure, the reason CHAN was pushed, and I know Mark will talk a little more about that, the reason CHAN was pushed initially was because the three nations that were meant to host it in February were not quite ready. In Uganda, we had made quite a bit of progress. I understand the Kenyans were lagging a little behind us, but even us here, we could have used a few, perhaps more months to get everything else in place. We have our venue as Nambole itself was ready, but perhaps one or two training grounds needed a little touching up, and that is still going on. I don't know, Mark will say something about that, but for the major stadiums, I have been to those sites in the last few weeks. So I'd be speaking from a position where I actually know what's going on the ground, because Hoima Stadium has actually gathered a lot of pace. We've talked here on the show before, this conversation before, about the work that the Turkish construction giants Suma are doing. But we need to say it again and again every time we have new viewers who might not even know what we're saying. Suma are the Turkish construction company that were given the construction rights for Hoima, our second national stadium, and they're doing a great job. They were meant to finish this in 18 months. The speed at which they're going, they're likely to finish it before. Remember, I'm talking about not just a football stadium, but a multi-complex, a multi-sports complex, because they have a 25-meter swimming pool they're supposed to build outside courts for netball, basketball, and volleyball, but also an inside arena, smaller arena, a 2K arena for indoor sport that will host also basketball, netball, volleyball, badminton, boxing, whichever sports go into an indoor arena.
Running track within the stadium?
Yes, yeah, there's a running track there as well. Wow. So you've got football and athletics taken care of in the main stadium, yes. But outside there's a big training pitch which can be used as well for football, and then all those facilities. And they also come with a 60-bed hostel as well as a big parking lot, 1,000 plus vehicles and all. So it's a huge facility. These guys, and as you can see on the screen, because we've got an aerial drone view of this facility and how it's going, and then some videos from much closer up that show you exactly what that construction is going into that construction. They're amazing, they're fast, they're experienced, and they do top quality work. So Hoima Stadium should, in just a few months down the road, really join Nambole as one of our two venues for CHAN 2027, which we are meant to host. And Hoima Stadium won't be ready for CHAN. It's not even meant to be. For CHAN, we're only using Nambole as our main stadium, but it should be very ready. And then just after that, as Mark who knows very well, I was in Lira twice in the space of a month. One, as part of the team that was handing over the site to another construction company. This time from Egypt, called Samco. that is for Akibwa Stadium, which is supposed to be designed and built in virtually the same way as Hoima. Same facilities, pool, outdoor courts, indoor arena, a track, football pitch, parking, hostel, the same thing.
It's just a different contractor.
Contractor, yeah, from
Okay.
Egypt, yeah. And so I was there, we handed over the site, and then we had to go back because the president was actually groundbreaking.
Oh, wow.
So by the time we went back within a space of weeks, they had cleared, the site was totally different from what we had seen it as when they were handing over. I spoke to one or two of the engineers, they were not happy with their own pace, they think they should be.
Is that the site where the original Akiba Stadium was?
Yes.
Okay.
It's now been completely cleared. You've been there, you were there before. You would not recognize it if you got back here. That's how serious it is. They were even telling me they were not happy. They didn't think the pace they were working at was quick enough. But now, after the president's groundbreaking, perhaps they're going to gather pace because they're being thrown a serious challenge by how fast SUMA are doing their work. SUMA, who are a more experienced contractor. But Samco themselves, I mean, I'm sure they'll be up to that challenge. And again, they too, their target is 2027 AFCON. They have 2 more months in their contract than SUMA, because SUMA have 18 months, they have 20. But I have a feeling, and that's just me, that ultimately, because of the part of the world they come from, these companies at some point might even exchange notes. I would not be surprised actually if, because SUMA are way ahead, 1 or 2 of them perhaps visits the Akibwa side and
That will have to happen.
I think because of the part of the world, I know that the companies from certain parts of the world work together. They even come together sometimes as consortiums and bid for things, but also culturally. So I'm thinking that might happen. Even if it didn't, I trust that Samco will do a good job. So largely, Mark, the infrastructure bit is a big deal.
I think for me, this is a bit of history. This is actually not a bit of history. This is a very historic and problem in the rest of the country. Because for a very long time, we've been decrying the lack of infrastructure in Uganda. We did have stadiums, and we had Nachivo, which served the country at the time before we went to Nambole. And when Nambole was opened in 1997, it was labeled an ultra-modern sports complex. Then, in 1997.
Okay.
Of course, they had to do a couple of renovations after it was shut down, I think around 2019, because it wasn't conforming to the FIFA standards. But right now, I think they've done most of the work, and it's a pitch can host, and again, beat the FIFA or AFCON qualifier. Now, when you have the work happening in Hoima and work happening in Mira, we can comfortably say that we're in a much better place than more 10 years ago, because we have a modern stadium within the central. You have Hoima serving the western, and then Akibwa serving the north. And for me, I'm looking at Uganda building a sports culture, beyond the infrastructure, because when you have these facilities there, you're going to compel the people around to start using these facilities. Be it basketball, be it swimming pool, be it all the stadiums, be it tennis, be it athletics and etc. And that way, you can nurture talent with the grassroots. And I think the challenge, which is a big challenge for the rest of the country, will be to ensure that these are not whatever funds post AFCON 2027. But that's a problem I'd rather have than not having the facilities in place. Now we do have them, and I think it's quite historic. And I mean, Mark, you've been sharing those updates from Hoima and from Lira, and at one point I felt like this is unreal. This is like a dream. Because for a long time, we've been decrying our lack of facilities, and without these facilities, we didn't come close to fostering any sports culture in this country.
Right, yeah.
But now we're headed somewhere. And listen, I was impressed that even after CHAN was postponed, Uganda wasn't the worst of the 3 from major countries. Actually, we're the best of all the 3.
We're more ready than the others,
despite our limitations. I mean, I think it was also short in terms of some of the training facilities. But this for the CAF assessors and inspectors, they said Uganda was way ahead. Kenya virtually had nothing in place, but moving at snail space. So I think it's a step in the right direction. All of a sudden, I can sit here and comfortably say that the powers that be understand the power of sport.
Yeah.
They understand that sport can transform humanity. For a long time, I don't think
They did, yeah.
they appreciated it.
Yes.
What's sports meant.
When you say that, Mark, it reminds me actually of the president's speech in Lira. And he echoed some of the words actually he's used in a few places where I've been, where sports is concerned. And where he actually admits that it wasn't a priority for him before, and he gives his reasons. But that he realizes that potential is a huge thing, because these projects are a bit personal to him and his team. The thing though is that where we stand to gain, when Mark talks about say northern region, it reminded me of how you stand to gain when you commit to infrastructure like this in more ways than one. The president spoke about tarmacking a road between Lira and Gulu, which is actually a shortcut, because you do not have to go all the way back to Kamdini from Lira up and then turn to go to Gulu, because that's quite a distance. And the reason for tarmacking that is because he knows that CAF wants for a stadium to be certified as a host, CAF want for it to have access to an international airport. Now, so that means that the northern region will both get a road, a tarmac road linking Lira and Gulu because of that, and also an upgraded Gulu airfield. So it is of a standard that passes international tests for flights that are international. Already there's a construction of an airport in Hoima. And that's why we first went there to construct the stadium, because the airport is almost done. So imagine you're getting both an airport and roads, several roads Hoima has got them because of a stadium.
In the same timeline.
In basically enhancing economies of various societies. And
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But the thing is, Mark, I think we've got to give credit where it's due. And listen, you have all these stadiums coming up, and in Lira, in Hoima, and the work on Nambolia. But I think there's been a series of events which have led to this turnaround. And listen, I can't point at one individual, but I think part of the change, part of the paradigm shift, I think, started with maybe Moses Kipsiro.
Yes.
Won that double gold
Yeah.
in India, and then came Stephen Ripotich in 2012.
Yeah.
When he won the Olympic gold, I was there at Tower Bridge in London when he won that first Olympic gold in 20 years. Then in 2014, you get Stephen Kipsiro doing the double again in Glasgow with that spectacular finish in the 10,000 meter final, which got memories of the rivalry between Haile Gebrselassie and Paul Taggart, because he finished, it was just his final kick at the finish line, which won him that gold. And then you go to 2016, I think there was that junior gold by Joshua Cheptegei.
Yeah.
And then 2017, for the first time in a very, very long time, President Museveni arrived at a sports event on time, way in time. He took his seat with the first lady, and Museveni arrived around, I think it was 10:45 or 11, and sat all through up to 7 p.m.
Yes.
When Joshua Cheptegei suffered that epic capitulation, the one on which should, of course, build all the inspiration to become what he is today. But when you connect all these developments, and of course, Koreans qualifying for AFCON 2017, and then it was a very big deal. Today, it was a very big deal.
It's huge.
And then, of course, we go back in 2019, and then you have Ali Manakai and Cheptegei winning that gold in Doha. So all of a sudden, we became a powerhouse in
sport,
sports on the continent. The netballers came in, the Shikrens winning, becoming African champions, and then doing well at all these the Commonwealth Games.
Then the rugby and cricket guys winning continental titles, African champions.
At least the sports stakeholders have been concerted push by so many of the elite sportsmen, the individuals and the teams all together to make the government understand that, listen, we cannot succeed without infrastructure, without your support, without your backing.
Absolutely.
And after all these years, finally we can say that the government has listened.
They have
Yes.
listened, yeah. Because Mark, we've talked about the infrastructure advantages. The boost to the economy, again, is something that they had not looked at in certain ways beyond, say, what happens on a football pitch and people getting excited. But we've talked now they know. In terms of talent development and nurture, sporting and nurturing of talent, that's important all across. Because one of the things that these facilities are going to do is to actually involve a lot of youth. We're a young country with a country with a very young population. Millions and millions of people who could end up idle and in crime and all sorts of other
Yeah.
I'll
things.
give an example.
Whom sports is going to take up?
Let me give an example,
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah.
From a game I understand best. I'm talking about golf.
Yeah.
And golf is basically it's the private sector which is pushing golf. The government has come in on that, but purely talent development,
Yeah.
education and development is purely from the private sector.
Private sector.
So
Yeah.
the Lugazi Golf Field and Country Club, which is owned by Meta, in the sugarcane plantations of Lugazi. After Godfrey Suga won the Uganda Open, that was in 2022, and then in 2023, and then Joseph Regan Akena won the Uganda Open, another Lugazi kid in 2024. So they've had youth programs, but now they have a very deliberate, dedicated, and concerted plan around the juniors. For the junior development tournament in Entebbe, they sent 70 kids to Entebbe. They are funding, they're training, this is free training for the kids. They're giving them the golf equipment
Okay.
and hiring all the trainers to teach them. I can guarantee you that Lugazi is now the hotbed of talent. It's now the building ground of all the best golfers in the country.
Yeah.
Because of having the facilities and having someone who has the vision, and because Akena and Nsubuga right now are role models for these kids.
Yes.
Nsubuga right now is a golf college in the US. Akena is right now speaking in South Africa, representing the country at Leopard Golf Course in Joburg. So all of a sudden, golf can transform lives. It can offer hope to people who don't have probably openings.
Absolutely.
So you can imagine what if now not just golf. Now let's talk about the sports subsector as a whole.
Absolutely.
Basketball, for athletics, for football, for rugby, for cricket, for name it, for all of it.
Yeah. You basically have all this talent and all these kids whom you're giving a very positive distraction. It's good for their health, good for their community involvement, and good for their pocket.
Yeah.
If they
So
get
at the end of the
It's
day,
not
At the end of the day, so you take them away from crime and from all other stuff.
Listen, Joseph Regan Akena is 19 years.
Yeah.
19. Last year, he made more money than all the three of us.
Both together, yeah.
And he's an amateur golfer.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you have that, and I've seen even just dance sport, which is a new Olympic sport.
yes.
The guys, the Ugandan version of it, the guys have gone all across the country. The kids, they're getting involved in that. Amazing, without much facilities. But never mind. So you have that, and you have the ability to host a domestic competition. There's money to generate in and around for people, not only who are in sport, but other service providers, transport, accommodation, food, and all, drinks and all that stuff.
Bars.
All of that stuff. Then also, you've got the sports tourism thing. When these facilities are ready, we're going to be bringing people from all across the world to use them, the way other countries have managed to tap into that. The amount of foreign exchange that comes into your economy from that is amazing. You can't even measure.
I mean, I'll give you an
Anyway,
example
guys.
again. We can go on and on about this topic. Zimbabwe came here and they hosted their games here.
Yeah.
They played Kenya here and they played Cameroon here. And just that trip alone, and because Zimbabwe was staying at the Hilton here, Zimbabwe, they had a team of 80, 90 people who were here. They paid them some very, very good money for those games. Some good tens of thousands of
So did the
dollars.
Kenyans.
So did the Kenyans.
Yeah.
So just having a stadium which conforms to the national
To
standard.
that, yeah.
So you can imagine, and that's just an example.
Yeah.
You can imagine if you have a proper basketball arena, which is really unavailable, if you have an Olympic size swimming pool of the national standard. I mean, there are all these economic signals.
Now, Paul,
All right.
besides that, of course, and along with that, outside of all of that, while that was happening, CHAN, actually Morocco, then hosted the draws for the Africa Cup of Nations, which we talked about in December. So now we know Uganda's opponents, Uganda's opponents for the AFCON. in 2025. The reason why this is very important, of course, is we are trying to, as we say, trying to lay a foundation for what we're going to do as hosts in 2027. So Morocco is going to be very important under those circumstances because the team they're building, most of the guys, if they are in their late teens or early 20s, will be at the peak of their powers in 2027. So our team as hosts for that tournament is not going to look too different from this one. Of course, 2 years is a long time, so things will change.
Definitely, yeah.
But there's a core of the players that you expect will still be there who are going to be playing in Morocco. They I mean people like Travis Mutiaba and Jude Mugabi. I mean Jude Mugabi. Those guys have age on their time, on their side. Yeah, they have age on their side. And you hope that even the ones who are a little older, say Dennis Omedo is that.
I think that like
Khalid Aucho is much older.
Yeah, apart from Aucho, I worry for Aucho, but in terms of the other guys, I think
you think they'll all make it? Yeah, they should. Yeah, even
Aucho is probably the oldest of the current lot.
Yeah, Alan Mokelo. The guys at the back should also make it. Defenders last even longer in the game than attackers. So this guy must be really young, and then you've got
Kenneth Semakula,
Bomono, yeah, Davis Mugabe has been around a bit, but he should be there. Khalid Walida, know those guys. So they are in a group with Nigeria, Tunisia, and Tanzania for the AFCON in Morocco. It's going to be played around Christmas time. It's going to be tough on them, but like I said, I think it's going to be tougher on other countries. Imagine playing through the Christmas period when for some players, for the big teams like Nigeria who are in our group and Tunisia, if they have good players coming from say the English Premier League, the league will be really on because those guys don't have a break. They play them on Boxing Day in England. Now, and so that affects some of them.
Actually,
the on-watchers of this
country.
Yeah.
I think in early December, all the leagues will be affected.
They'll be affected.
All the leagues are actually running. Most of them break off maybe like 5 days before Christmas.
Before Christmas, yeah.
But all the leagues will be affected. France, the Bundesliga,
and La Liga. Yeah, now the ones who, while the English play through Christmas and New Year's Eve, where these guys are taking a rest, some guys are taking a rest, that 2-week period is the one in which players who are not in the Premiership but in the rest of Europe would have used to recuperate before they go back to training camp and start again. Now we're asking them to play football in that period as well. So it's going to be tough on certain nations in a way that is not affecting Uganda. So while we have Nigeria and Tunisia, guys who should beat us up on a good day, if everything goes according to the form book and to class and pedigree and experience, they actually might not be in the shape that is worrying.
Actually, Mark, tournament football.
Guys.
Tournament football has changed so much.
Yeah.
Had this draw been made 20, 30 years ago, I would guarantee that Uganda is going to play 3 games.
And they'll come back home, yeah.
I can't say the same today because, first and foremost, the gap has narrowed in terms of the sports science. Now, the way Nigeria is being prepared for the games, the way Uganda is being prepared. Our players may be of different ability, but we're getting the same exposure, we have the same preparations, the same sports psychologists who are preparing the team. But also, most importantly, is that this is tournament football. If you learn 1 or 2 things from the last AFCON, which was in Ivory Coast, it was that reputations right now mean nothing. Yeah. You saw a group where I think Ghana were knocked out.
Yes, yeah.
And Mozambique advanced.
Yes.
So was it Mozambique or Cape
Verde?
Yeah, Cape Verde with Egypt. So what will be very, very critical for me in that group is the game against Tunisia, our opening game. If we can force a result out of that game, even a 7, because we're playing Tanzania next. Yeah. And Tanzania is a team which is, that's our level. Yeah. You'd think we have as good a chance of beating them as they have of beating us. Yes. But on a good day, we can beat them. And we'll beat them at their home, the same way they beat us when we were in Egypt. I think if we can do the business, because in group football, the first game is very important. If you win your opening game, you have 1 foot in the knockout stages. So it won't be easy, but I think unlike back in the day when we had a phobia for the Arabs, the pleasure of the Hat and Fabelsis and the other Salims and case of Banis, they're still the better side, but I think we can match them. Nigeria, by the way, I'm not taking Uganda for granted. Actually, Uganda's last game against Nigeria in this tournament, Uganda beat Nigeria in 1978 in the semi-finals. Oh, yes. Before we went to the final. And lately, when we played Nigeria, They not embarrassed us. Mark had a debuter.
Yeah.
When they robbed us, Jefferson Comer's goal.
That was robbery. Yeah.
It was robbery, and then I think we beat them here
Yes.
at Nambole. So we tend actually to do better against teams which are from sub-Saharan Africa. The Arabs, I think we haven't had that much success. But even against Egypt, in Egypt, we put in a decent shift.
Yeah.
So
we should be okay.
I think, are we the favorites to advance? No.
No.
Do we have a chance? We definitely do have a
Yes.
chance.
We do have a chance, yeah. And when you talk about Nigeria, like I said, pal, the likes of Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman, that caliber of player might have their minds on something else by the time we play AFCON in December. Either in the January transfer window and some big moves for big contracts, or or fighting for places at clubs that will be at them.
Maybe Itihado is dangling a few
stuff like that. Yeah.
And they'd rather be fit and secure that career-defining move.
Absolutely.
Balance to Al Nassr, as opposed to getting your leg broken by Sechigana.